Let's talk about family entertainment. You're about to hear the latest trends, expert insights, and behind-the-scenes stories of family fun centers. We'll be talking with arcade vendors, food vendors, attraction vendors, plus sharing life stories of owner-operators and much more. Stay tuned for engaging and informative content that will keep you coming back for more. And now, here's your host, Jeff Pierce of Atomic City Family Fun Center with the FEC World Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the FEC World Podcast. I am Jeff Pierce, and we are here to help you with all things family entertainment. We're here to help those that just thinking about getting into the business or just started, or those that's been in for several years and saying, hey, it's time to make a change. And we're here to help you with that. We have guests on here to tell you all about that and to help you with those priorities. But today we have Danny Gruening. He's Vice President of Business Development of Creative Works out of Indianapolis, Indiana. Danny, how you doing today?
I'm doing better now that I'm talking to you.
Well, Danny, we've been friends now about 4 years since we opened our facility, and Creative Works did all of our theming in our facility, and we love it, and our customers love it. So we really appreciate y'all very much and what you do for the industry.
Right back at you. We always love working with great people like you and Shar, and it's great to continue the relationship and seeing how you keep growing and evolving the business over time.
Well, we appreciate that. And I was going to ask you, can you give me a brief description of what all Creative Works does?
Yeah, so we create powerful emotions and memories through immersive attractions. We help owners of family entertainment centers get customers off the couch and into their centers with experiences they can't get at home. Those are things like laser tag arenas, mini golf courses, escape rooms, virtual reality, theming, and other attractions. That's what we focus on, and that's what we've been doing for over 25 years.
Sounds like a big one-stop shop then, huh? That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And I have seen your facility 2 or 3 times when I go to Amusement 360, and it always amazes me everything that you do in that building and creating all these items and these parks and everything. It's so cool what y'all do and the talent you have. And another thing, I got to compliment y'all on the cleanliness of your shop. My goodness, you can eat off that floor. And so, man, I tell you, folks, if you use Creative Works, you're going to be very, very satisfied from start to end. I can promise you that. So, Danny, we're here to help some people that's thinking about starting an FEC or already been in the business and wanting to change it up a little bit. So, what are the first steps someone should take when they're planning to open an FEC?
I think the number one thing anybody can do is go to educational events. Now, at Creative Works, we happen to host one called Amusement 360. It doesn't have to be that one. There's a lot of really great events, big and small, throughout the industry. Some are educational seminars, some are larger trade shows that have educational components. Go to as many of those as you can, because you will end up learning so many things that it's one of those things where you don't know what you don't know. And then the moment you get into those environments, and not only are you learning from the experts and the speakers who are on stage, but you get that opportunity to break bread and network and socialize with other operators who have been in your shoes. Whether they've been operating for a few years or a few decades, they know what it's like to start a new center. They know what it's like to operate one. And you can learn so much from asking them questions and kind of creating your own network of people.
I agree 100%. I tell you what, I've been to a lot of them. Charlotte's been to a lot of them, and we definitely have been to Amusement 360 several times, and we learn something new every time. And I tell you, Danny, when Atomic City opened up, when we had the vision of bringing family entertainment to Paducah, Kentucky, we knew nothing. We knew nothing about it. We didn't know about all these educationals and the seminars and the conventions and the trade shows. We just started making phone calls to some vendors and talking with people like Creative Works that helped us along with what Creative Works does, and as far as our go-kart attractions as well. So It is very important, and that is the purpose of this podcast. Actually, Danny, is to help people. That's just thinking about it, because I'll tell you what, it's a big industry, and it can be very, very successful. But it's great to hear all angles before you get started in it, and have the patience and have the knowledge before you get started in it. I agree, 100%,
And I
100%.
wanted to add to that. You had mentioned you've been to Amusement 360 several times. I will say, Jeff Pierce, you own the record for most attendance at that event. I think it's 5 times now that you've been. But I think that there's, even for people who have been operating for a while, I always encourage them to go to these events, because even if 70 to 80% of the presentations are things that you've heard before, one, it's helpful to get a reminder. And two, you never know the one nugget that you're going to pull from that changes your revenue and changes your profitability and kind of takes you up to the next level. You never know what that one thing will be. And so for me, I'm always a big fan of continual education, regardless of how long you've been in the game.
Yeah, and I appreciate you letting us keep coming back, because we do learn a lot, and we love talking to your sponsors and the companies that you have there at the booth, and we learn from them as well. And folks, when you go to Amusement 360, it is very motivational. So be ready to hold on, put your seatbelt on once you get home, because you will want to do everything that day. I can promise you. So it's very, very cool. And we do appreciate the folks at Creative Works putting on Amusement 360 and all the other ones that put on events similar to that as well. So, Danny, if when someone's creating an FEC, how important is the theming of the facility?
So I like to think of this as, instead of going theming specifically, I like to step back and think of this as brand and design.
Gotcha.
And I think there's a couple different things here. Is that it's important to figure out, if you've got other venues that are in your market that are competitors, how are you setting yourself up to be unique? How are you either maximizing a certain attraction that doesn't exist, or maximizing an attraction that others don't have? Or how are you targeting a specific audience? And I think it's important to understand what your brand is first. And then once you understand that, it allows you to figure out, okay, what are the visual theming pieces we want to bring in? Because we've done a lot of projects in multiple different ways. Some facilities have a kind of overall theme and aesthetic that travels through their entire venue, and there's a consistent kind of theme throughout. And others are built to be more of a let's call it contemporary upscale space that happens to have some themed and some non-themed attractions within that space. So there's a lot of different ways to approach it. And I think understanding who your audience is first and who you want to attract is probably the most important place to start. And so that's the one recommendation that I would make. Obviously, there are so many variables that come into choosing the attraction mix and come into choosing the exact aesthetic, and we can't necessarily identify every one of those, but I think that's a really good starting point.
Yeah, I agree. In our facility that we themed, or Creative Works themed our facility, laser tag and mini golf and some other items throughout as our city, Paducah, Kentucky. And, we are called the Atomic City. And the reason for that is we have a nuclear facility here that was built just to have the ingredients for atomic bombs back in WW1. So that's how Paducah was called Atomic City. That's what our name is. And we pay homage to our city, and y'all nailed it. I can promise you that. You nailed it.
I will also say I've been to your location, and your cleanliness and maintenance that you have on your attractions is phenomenal. I've walked through your attractions, the ones that we've done and the ones that we haven't, and I'm very blown away with how well you've kept everything up, and it looks like it's brand new.
Well, we appreciate that, and that's what we decided on in the very beginning. We made a pact that we're gonna keep it up, keep it maintained, because we want it to last. There's a lot of money that goes into this industry, and why not give the people, all your guests, and your customers, just the best you can give them all the time. When we close our doors at night, we want the facility to be ready to open a minute after you walk out that door, locking up that night. We want it ready to go, clean, ready to go for the next day. And that's just how we do things there. So That's a good advice too. If you're getting ready to open FEC, keep it clean and keep it organized. You will love it. It would be so much easier on you for sure. That's for sure. So, Danny, what could we talk about? Have you ever seen any mistakes an FEC has made, and if so, how could that have been avoided? You ever ran into anything like that?
Yeah, I think there's a couple. First, I'll go back and talk about the educational events. Anyone who opens one of these that doesn't go to an educational event, that's a first mistake because I've talked to owners and operators that have built a facility, opened it, and later on they came to one or more educational events and they said to themselves, wow, if I would have come here first, I would have changed so many things. There's a lot of stuff that we did wrong. That's
Mhm.
number one. Um, I think number two is in the planning phase, not allocating enough budget for unexpected expenses. You're
Gotcha.
going to have a lot of unexpected things that come up, whether it's, hey, we're tearing down this wall, and all of a sudden, oh no, this is a we have an issue behind it. It's going to cost us another, 10, 20 grand in construction fees. Or, oh no, we wanted to be able to run electrical here, but now we can't because of X, Y, or Z. There's all these things that can come up in the process. Have plans for overruns and expenses because it's going to happen. If you end up allocating 100% of your budget up front to all of the planned expenses, then what ends up happening is as you go along in the process and things pop up, you then have to start removing things from your business. And that is a tough spot to be. And then I would say one of the other things is the assumption that if you build it, they will come. And that's not true. I think marketing and community engagement early on in the process before you open is really important to let people know that you're there and help start building a brand to get people in the door. You can't just assume I'm going to open this up and everyone's going to come and check me out. It's not necessarily the case.
Gotcha. Yeah, and like we always say too, that the ones that say they can't afford to advertise or can't afford to market, can't afford not to. I mean, because it will shut you down quick if you don't have that in the budget. And very, very good advice. Very good advice. And I'll be openly and admit that the first mistake that you mentioned, I mean, we were there. Like I said earlier, we didn't know about them, and I wish we would have, because we've come back and we've changed a lot after some of these events, and we are where we need to be now, and it's because of those events. So very good, and I appreciate all that information. Um, so now, if someone's thinking about what am I going to put in the FEC, what am I going to do? Am I just going to throw this here, this here? What's the best way to determine what your demographic uh, is needing at that time? I mean, what is the best way to figure out what you are 100% going to do with your facility?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to approach this, and there's so many variables. But I think one of the things you just mentioned is important is identify who your target audience is. Who are the people that you want to bring in your doors, and how are you going to package your attraction mix in a way that caters to them? And
Right.
there's an example that I love using because a lot of times people will say, okay, well, I know my audience. Is this attraction good for my audience? Is this attraction good for my audience? And they just start naming attractions. And the short answer that everyone hates hearing is it depends. And the reason why I say that is because you can have an attraction that same attraction, if it's packaged in a certain way, can be able to be uh, allocated to different audiences. And so here's a really great example of this in a consumer product, right? You think about Perrier and you think about Liquid Death. Those are essentially the exact same products. It's sparkling water, but they're packaged in very different ways and they're catered to very different audiences, but it is essentially the same thing. And for so many attractions, not all of them, but for a lot of the attractions within the entertainment world, you can package them in certain ways to be able to target different audiences. So I think that's a really helpful way to think through that. And then at the end of the day, I always recommend anybody to when they're working on a new venue to hire someone to help them with a feasibility study because that person can also give them good input on what kind of attraction mix would make the most sense for them and how to package it correctly.
Absolutely. And if someone's going to spend the money on, to hop into this industry, I mean, uh, the feasibility study is worth it. I mean, top notch. You make sure you budget for that for sure, and find the one that you feel comfortable with working, and research that too. Make sure you grab the right one. So for those that's opening, or those who've been in the business for several years, Danny, if they're wanting to make a change, or if they
Mhm.
want to put something in their building, what advice what advice would you give them as far as where to start first? Can you give me just like a top five things you need to do before that?
Do you mean if someone's looking to add a new attraction?
Well, add a new attraction or bring in attraction for their facility. What advice would you give them as far as, I guess, researching and shopping around, trying out,
Mhm.
like go-karts or whatever the case may be? What would be the best thing for them to start out with after the feasibility study?
I think talk to as many vendors as you can that if it's go-karts, talk to a bunch of go-kart vendors. If it's laser tag, talk to a bunch of laser tag vendors and start doing your research and understanding, it's not just about the product that that company's delivering. The product is important. It's got to be well built. It's got to be durable. It's got to be a great experience. All those things are must-haves, right? But you're also entering into a long-term relationship with this vendor. You need to make sure you like them as people. You can depend on them from a support standpoint. If you are making a decision purely on the product and you don't like the people or you just don't mesh with them or whatever it is, you're setting yourself up for a really tough relationship long
Right.
term because many operators are going to have attractions for 5, 10 plus years.
Mhm.
And you don't necessarily want to start a relationship with people that you don't like, right? That's one of the
Right.
things I think is helpful. And when it comes to attractions, I think remembering the different variables that go into to choosing the attractions that are right for you. You've got all right, well, what is the overall square footage it's going to take up in my facility? What is the hourly throughput and capacity that I'm going to have? What is the price point that I can charge? And what are the staffing requirements? Those four things all work in tandem to determine the kinds of attractions that make sense for your business and your model.
Right. Yeah. Well, I tell you, you're talking about the loyalty and the relationships you have with the vendors that you choose. Just like you and I, Danny, it's actually turned into a friendship. I mean, you and several others there at Creative Works, I just think of you as my friends now.
Mhm.
And from that friendship, what's very, very important about being in this industry, having your facility, whether it be mobile or just just wherever you may land there, networking is very, very important. I think I would love to add that to the list. We think about that, Danny. Networking is so important. It can get you many places.
Agreed.
Yeah. So anyway, Danny, we appreciate you so much. Everything that you and Creative Works do. Love your speaking. Danny is the host of Amusement 360, one of them that just comes up and opens it up, and watch out, you may start dancing or whatever the case may be. Uh, Danny's very good. He's very knowledgeable, and uh, we definitely want to have you back on here again, Danny. We appreciate you very, very much, and we appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate being on here. And can I share one more thing real quick before we wrap up?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I think every year at Creative Works, we have a theme for the year. And in 2024, our theme is hero. And I like bringing this up because I think it's easy for business owners to lose sight of this. I'm going to speak to you as Jeff, but also to the greater you as anybody listening.
Okay.
Um, your business is important and your business matters. You create a place where people celebrate together. You create a place where people escape together. You create a place where people make lifelong memories together.
Right.
The work that you do matters. The place that you hold in your community matters. And it can be easy to lose sight of that in the day-to-day chaos and working in the weeds and problem solving and putting out fires. But it's important to remember that what you do matters. And for us, that's why we view the owners and operators of family entertainment centers as heroes because of what they provide for their community and the memories that are made and everything that people get to experience when they walk in their door. So that's how I want to leave this and finish off with remember, you're a hero.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. That's great, Danny. And one more, let me give you a plug. You and Russ have a podcast. Tell us real quick about how to do that and where to find it.
Yeah, so you can go to wearecreativeworks.com, and our podcast is the Memory Makers Podcast. And just like you, we're helping people in the entertainment and amusement world be able to create amazing experiences and create more memories within their business. And it's a mix of operator interviews and being able to look at the X's and O's of FEC operations, and also some high-level leadership and business development advice as well.
Perfect. Perfect. There you go, folks. More information coming your way. They're already on. I've listened to every episode, so I've already got the jump on it. So make sure you listen to that as well. And we want to thank you for joining us today on the FEC World Podcast, where we help you with all things family entertainment. We got a great lineup coming up every Tuesday morning, 6 a.m. Our podcast will be hitting on YouTube. You need to go to YouTube and subscribe to our channel, the FEC World Podcast with Jeff Pierce, and the same for the Facebook page, the FEC World Podcast with Jeff Pierce. Make sure you like, follow, share, and all the good stuff. You know how to do it. Click that bell on YouTube so you'll get notified when we have another podcast ready for you. Thank you very much, folks. We will see you next time.
Thank you for taking the time to enjoy this episode of the FEC World Podcast with Jeff Pierce. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, filled with industry secrets and exciting updates. Be sure to subscribe to this show, leave us a review, and let us know what you think. Join us next week for more captivating interviews and essential tips from the FEC world. See you soon on the next FEC World Podcast.